It is the 4th anniversary of the day when Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage of Konoha, sacrificed his life to seal the Kyuubi inside of his son Naruto. Although to the younger generation and those outside the village who don't know much about the ninja arts, it's defeat. Unfortunately for young Naruto, he was barely 30 minutes old from birth before he became its container. What most people don't know, the only other person knowing being Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage, is that Naruto was able to meet the Kyuubi when he was 2, although he wasn't able to talk to it completely until he turned 3, which was also when he found out that he was Naruto Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. When told to Hiruzen, and finding out how much he understood, the Hokage realized that like his father, and probably like Itachi Uchiha, a once-in-a-decade super prodigy. This made Hiruzen wonder if this means that Naruto might be the next sage of 6 paths, especially since a few legends state that his 3rd child was an Uzumaki, or the sage himself. Right now, Naruto was heading towards the Hokage's tower, where he would be the safest, because while most people have happy birthdays, his is rather to see if the villagers would let him live to see next day. The Hokage decided not to take chances by sending in a small squad of ANBU to watch over the boy because the villagers well used that as an excuse to destroy him. He also had Ibiki Marino act like a bodyguard, or as he puts it, a babysitter, since nobody would have the nerve to mess with the head of the torture and interrogation department. As the awkward pair were walking, with the villagers and a small amount of ninjas, the ones that are civilian-born, and or has members on the council, glaring at them from a distance, Ibiki kept that look on his face. The look that makes most ANBU wants to make sure they have a spare change of underwear on hand. He heard a small sigh from his charge. Geez, they call me names like demon and monster just because I was born on this day, and yet they are making the Kyuubi seem like better company. Naruto said, while Kyuubi gave a small thank you in return, agreeing completely after seeing what its container has to experience. Yeah, I know, kid. Ibiki said, impressed at how quickly the boy has been growing, yet at the same time, disappointed at the reason behind it. Yet when the time comes, you're going to have to decide whether to run and hide from the hate, or take a stand and face it in any way you can. Naruto gave an even bigger sigh. Before he could give a reply, a kunai with a tag landed between them. With alarms going off in his head, Naruto surprised Ibiki by quickly pushing Ibiki hard enough for him to stumble away just in time to avoid the explosion. When he recovered, he noticed that Naruto wasn't so lucky due to the amount of damage it has done to his body. When he got to the boy and turned him over, 6 ANBU appeared surrounding them, 5 acting like a barrier, while the 6th got started on treating him on the spot. When the medic opened his eyes, to their surprise, instead of the usual blue, they were a purplish gray with round circles spreading out like ripples, with a tomo inside the inner ring. In what could be considered a regular room for Naruto, to the displeasure of so many, he is currently lying in bed, still unconscious from taking the full brunt of the blast. Right now, he is being protected by 4 ANBU, 2 to guard the door and protect him from the doctors and nurses who would try to finish the boy off, and 2 in the shadows in the room to make sure none of the ninjas try to attempt any more assassinations. Ibiki gave them the orders needed to ensure Naruto's safety before leaving to inform the Hokage, while the ANBU medic left to gather the stuff needed, which the staff can't do a thing about because standing in the way of an ANBU and their goals is suicidal. Both a doctor and a nurse, individually, tried to get in under the guise of checking up on him, which didn't fool them one bit. The doctor even went as far as to use the fact that the civilian council has given them permission, only to get arrested in the process, and giving the Hokage a little leverage. The nurse went as far as to ask why they defend the boy for what he did 4 years ago. One of the ANBU, wearing a cat mask and has long purple hair, countered by asking why they are defining Minato's final wish. The nurse gave a light huff and walked away. This was the flaw throughout the village, the locals not wanting to admit that they are wrong about something they never bothered to understand. As for young Mr. Naruto Uzumaki, he woke to a familiar clearing. When he first met Kyuubi, she was in what looked like a dungeon, yet being 2, he was too young to understand anything. By his 3rd birthday, when he has proven himself to be a prodigy, by doing everything earlier than your average toddler, which involved being forced to grow up faster than most, he understood that nobody deserves to be locked up, so he changed the entire area that looked like a huge meadow on the mountains, with a forest on one side and a beach on the other. To put simply, it was the kind of place that most Nara men want to go to when they want to avoid the women of the clan. Usually he would find Kyubi either sitting in the middle of the meadow, with a smile to as they greeted each other, or he would catch her sleeping on her back, paws spread out, her tail sticking straight out, and her tongue hanging out of her mouth, like how Naruto would find some of the Inuzuka dogs whenever the day seems nice for them. Sometimes he would either just lay down with his head on her belly or join her in a nap, or he would mess with her by rubbing her belly, which gained a pleasurable moan, something she would never admit to. This time she was giving him a sad look, sure he would live through this, like he would everything else, but still she is never happy whenever the blonde's visits are forced due to bigotry. Well, as much as I want to yell at you for that little stunt, I'll let it slide since it was done to save another life. Kyubi said, plus considering what were to happen if those villagers think they could get away with attacking a ninja. Yeah, what would stop them from attacking other ninjas, especially Gramps? Naruto said, before looking at his friend. By the way, after the explosion, and before I blacked out, my eyes started to feel weird. Any ideas why? Knowing that this question might pop up sooner or later, and wishing that it was much later, like say a few years, when he graduates from the academy, you have just awakened an ancient dojutsu and bloodline, which was also became prototype for another bloodline. She started to explain, getting Naruto's attention when the words dojutsu and bloodline were mentioned. Have you heard about the Sage of Six Paths? You mean that guy that some people say is supposed to be the original ninja? Naruto asked, the one who was supposedly the one to create what they called the foundation of ninjas everywhere. Yes, although like some stories, no matter how true are, become forgotten in time. Kyubi said, anyway, his real name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and what you don't know is that he was the one to capture the Shinju, the ten-tailed beast, into himself, making him the first container. She gave Naruto a brief history lesson about the man and how she came to be. Anything more would be a spoiler alert, considering I found the info on Narutopedia. As for your eyes, you have just awakened his version of the Rinnegan, which would be the ripples you will see. The tome you will also see, which would increase in number and time, is what served as the base for the Sharingan, which Hagoromo gained after he sealed Shinju into himself. Naruto was shocked over the fact that he had something in common with the Uchiha clan. Wow, there has got to be some kind of irony in there somewhere, he said, getting a mixture of a snort and a giggle from Kyubi, because she has seen how high and might the Uchiha clans make themselves out to be. Anyway, what can my eyes do, and how is my Sharingan different from the Uchihas? The Rinnegan part of your eyes allows you to gain control all of the elements, including a sixth one that has rarely been heard by anybody, the Yin/Yang element, which involves making anything through imagination. Kyubi explained. After seeing Naruto went from shock over the sixth element to an evil smirk, she knew that a few poor, some well-deserving, saps are going to go through a whole new level of pranks. As for the Sharingan part, while you would be missing some of the strongest attacks that only the Uchiha can use, like there's you can copy all kinds of techniques, no matter what kind they are, and analyze your opponents. Yet the one thing that makes yours better than the Uchiha version is that it protects you from their eyes in more way than one, as well as see through even the strongest of Jinjutsu. Naruto absorbed everything. So what you're saying is that I might be the next Sage of Six Paths? He asked, getting a nod in return. And did any of those abilities involve understand seals? Kyubi shook her head. No. Good chance you have inherited it from your parents, she started to explain. Minato was considered a real once-in-a-blue-moon genius, especially when it comes to seals, and Kushina came from a clan where Fuinjutsu is second nature for them. Meanwhile, while this was going on, Ibiki is at the Hokage's office giving him the heads up. While he was angry that one of his own ninja would go as far as to use an exploding tag to kill him, not caring who they take out with him. Our medic has fixed him up enough. Don't worry, he should still be fine, and is still working on him at the hospital, and I have the ENBU keeping guard on the brat. Ibiki said, getting a relief sigh from Hiruzen, although this was before he threw him a curveball, especially with his new bloodline waking up, which is something you are better off seeing for yourself. Hiruzen was surprised at this because as far as he knew, the only thing that the Uzumaki clan had that would be considered bloodlines is their longevity and ability to control demons. Namikaze, on the other hand, were mainly ninjas with flair for and everything else. The only thing missing was a bloodline. And what happened to the ninja responsible? He asked, getting really sick and tired of people undermining his authority, especially the civilian council. Tell me you plan on giving that. I'm hoping you plan on giving him the works for what he has done and who has put him up to it. I will when the Ice Queens are done beating the tar out of him, considering how overprotective they are of the kid. Ibiki said, getting a shiver from the Hokage due to the fact that there are things more scary than paperwork. Deciding to change the subject, especially from remembering all the times whenever he got caught reading his students' works and came close to kiss a certain part of his anatomy goodbye. NBU, send word to all council members that there will be a mandatory meeting within the next hour, and they will be required to attend or else face Ibiki and Anko for insubordination. Hiruzen ordered. The ANBU shivered at this because even though they were considered elite, even they would never want to face any kind of punishment involving them. And find Kakashi and tell him to get his lazy ass to the hospital, or else he'll be chasing that damn cat for the rest of the year, without both chakra and his precious eye. The ANBU gave a slight shiver as they acknowledged his orders and left. Even Ibiki shivered because that cat would make even Kages consider retirement. If it's okay with you, Lord Hokage, I'll go gather the necessary information for the meeting, he said, getting a nod in return. When he started to leave, Hiruzen flicked out of the office. When he arrived in the lobby, he started to walk towards the room that is reserved for Naruto when he was stopped by a nurse. Lord Hokage, you need to tell the ANBU to let the doctors in so that they can do their jobs. She practically ordered, only to get the evil eye, along with some killer intent in return. So you want me to tell my ANBU to stop doing their jobs so that they can let the doctors in to try and act like they are doing their jobs? Hiruzen asked, while causing the nurse to turn around with a look he knew all too well. And let me remind you that if the doctors would have succeeded, then the QB would break out and finish what it started. And whose fault do you think it would be? When the nurse's eyes went wide at this. Exactly, it would be the fault of the person who decided to give the QB a reason to attack, especially if they are through the eyes of the person it was contained in. After sidestepping the nurse and reaching his destination, he came upon a commotion between the doctors and the ANBU standing between them and their intended target. Okay, I already have a good idea on what this about, and I do remember you too from the times I brought the boy in and you personally blew me away. The monkey Kage said, causing the two to sweat badly because they know that all those times of blowing off a Kage is going to bite them in the ass finally. So now I can say is that you are fired from the hospital, and I'll make sure you will never start a practice or work in one in this village until you can fully remember the meaning of the Hippocratic Oath and how it implies to everyone. You can't do that, you demon lover, one of the doctors said with a scalpel in hand, only to lose his head in the process. Now do you want to join your friend, or are you willing to walk away on your own power? The Hokage said. The doctor was shocked at what her colleague has done. She knew that he hated the boy with a passion, but she didn't know that it would be bad enough to where he would actually attack the Hokage in such a manner. Giving him a small bow and leaving, she turned to ask, why do you defend that thing? You know what it has done. This was when Kakashi came in. Oh, we know. That is why we are making sure that nothing happens to Naruto, he said, getting a glare from the woman. The question is what happens if you kill the boy and it turns out that not only has the QB has been released, yet you've also killed an innocent boy to make it happen? The doctor walked away with a lot to think about. The two walked up to the door. Get somebody to clean up this door and don't let anybody in, especially if it's somebody from the council. Hiruzen ordered, causing one of the ENBU to go to the morgue. They walked in just as Naruto was just starting to come around. Hiruzen took a seat nearby while Kakashi stood in front of the bed, both hoping that Minato's legacy is okay. When his eyes opened, both gasped in shock when they could see that Naruto's eyes were different. Instead of their usual blue, they were a purplish gray with ripples surrounding the iris, with a tome in each other. Hey Gramps, Cyclops, how's it going? Naruto asked, getting them to snap out of their little stoop. Naruto, do you know what happened to you tonight? Hiruzen asked, while Kakashi was feeling annoyed with the Cyclops nickname and they could hear some snickering in the background from the ANBU there. And what happened to your eyes? You mean besides the usual threats to my life? Naruto responded, making Hiruzen feeling guilty for his lack of action. Anyway, I was walking with Mr. Personality. While we were walking, he waved his fingers when he mentioned Ibiki, getting a snicker throughout the room. Then the next thing I know, a kunai lands between us, and I notice a tag on the end of it. The only thing I can think of doing is making sure Ibiki was safe, so I used all of my strength to push him out of the way. By the time he was a few feet away from me, that was when the tag went off. This caused everybody in the room to be angry because of how far the villagers go to get some revenge, even at the cost of others. And when I woke up, I talked to a friend, Hiruzen knew which friend he was talking about, and Kakashi figured it out due to how close he is with the boy's family. That was when I noticed my eyes were different, almost like I was seeing things I couldn't have before. And did she tell you what happened to your eyes? Hiruzen asked. Yeah, she said it was the same bloodline that the Sage of Six Paths had, which is the Rinnegan that helped start the Sharingan eyes. Naruto explained. And there is one other thing, but I want to tell you when there aren't so many years. Hiruzen knew that whenever Naruto said something like this, then he knew it was something important, and he was the only person within the entire village, besides the Ikarakus, who he can trust a secret with, and anybody who wants to know would get something up the ass for their troubles, and the boot would be the least of their worries. He nodded, and they chatted for a bit, mainly about Naruto's dojutsu, so he can have something to tell the council. After a few minutes, Hiruzen left by Leaf Shunshin so that he make the meeting on time. Naruto then turned towards Kakashi and asked, Hey Kakashi, does the Sharingan let you see through clothes? Considering that he is the only person in the room who has some experience with the eye. No, but I do know that the Byakugan is said to be capable of such things. Kakashi answered, him being an open pervert, considering how often he reads the Ika books, wondering if it could. Why do you ask? Oh, it must be the Rinnegan part, because the ANBU in the corner doesn't seem to be wearing anything underneath her uniform. Naruto answered, causing two responses. The said ANBU to go red all over enough to give off a glow, which was followed by Kakashi and the other ANBU to faint at the thought. Wow, now I gotta remember, who owes me lunch now? This was when the ANBU doctor walked in and noticed the scene. What happened here? She asked, after finally getting the supplies needed and keeping the hospital staff from interfering her duties. Oh, just flushing out a couple of pervs. Naruto answered, before turning towards the embarrassed ANBU. What's up? Naruto, can you really see through my clothes? The ANBU asked. No, I was making that part up. What? Naruto answered, before it clicked why she asked and why she was blushing all over. Oh, was his only response. Hiruzen is in the council chambers, listening as the civilian council bickered on and on about being interrupted with enjoying the Kyuubi festival, since it was the only thing they were allowed to enjoy since both Hiruzen and the Fire Daimyo put a ban on all forms of fox hunting, including the ones involving Naruto, which was the main reason why Hiruzen chose the boys' guards carefully in order to make sure nobody tries to use some sort of loophole to break the law. The Hokage, main council, and clan heads just shook their heads, except for Fugaku Uchiha, who had a constipated look on his face, wondering who the bigger kid was, the children or their parents on the council. Hiruzen looked at his former teammates and old friend, all four of them wishing that it wouldn't be so hard to just find somebody to take over their jobs so that they can finally retire happily, especially Danzo, who wishes that he can retire to some tropical place. By the way, the Danzo in this FIC won't have bandages, mainly because I have him as a good guy, and I'm not sure if the bandages in the canon were because of Kyuubi or because of the Sharingan eyes he had implanted on himself. On here, he is pretty much complete, meaning he still has both original eyes and both complete arms. All he has are a bunch scars all over his body. Deciding that they have waited long enough. If you don't become quiet within this very second, those making too much noise will be listening to the whole Flames of Youth speech from Might Guy. Hiruzen yelled out, causing the entire room to become super quiet, super fast. Even the crickets outside went silent, even though the room was supposed to be soundproof. While it might be considered cruel, especially since he was still a Chunin, like his father, might die, both had this way of clearing an entire area from the family's Flame of Youth speech to their nice guy pose. And heaven forbid if Guy were to find a pupil like him, or worse, find a woman willing to give birth to one. Seeing how everyone has calmed down. Over an hour ago, somebody was crazy enough to attack young Naruto Uzumaki while he was being escorted to my office. Hiruzen started to say when the civilian council interrupted. That demon deserves to die for attacking our village. One yelled out. We need to avenge the fourth's death. Another yelled. Before a third popped up, one more word, and you will all be paying a visit to the torture and integration department, along with the would-be assassin. Hiruzen said, getting them to shut up, while some were starting to growl. The first person to speak up, Hayashi Hyuga, a close friend of Minato Namikaze, asked about the boy's well-being. How is Naruto doing, Lord Hokage? While considered royalty alongside the Uchihas and Senju, and when compared to the Uchihas on being a bunch of stiffs, thanks to his wife and twin daughters, he was becoming more open with his emotions. The boy is fine. The QB has already repaired the major damage, as well as the ninja that was escorting him, Hiruzen said, causing most of the room to sigh in relief, although the ninja tried to use an explosive tag despite the risk of life. That ninja should have been killed along with the demon, a civilian shouted out. For what? Doing his job. If we were to do that, then we might as well do that to everybody, including each other, Sum Inuzuka said, causing them to growl. So who was the ninja assigned to watch over the pup? Ibiki Marino, Hiruzen said, causing a slight gasp to go through the room for two different reasons. For those who are or were ninjas, except for the Uchiha, it was because they are close friends with the man due to how much he has went through in just a few short years he hit Chunin, from his team being killed by one of Kiri's strongest and sadist swordsmen, Kisame Hashigaki, to losing his brother in a fire caused by the traitor, Aoi Rokusho. Anybody willing to go as far as trying to kill one of their own just so they would have a reason to use the past as an excuse to attack somebody who lost more than they did. The civilian council was the complete opposite because of the fact that they knew they were in trouble. While they agreed to take the risk of having one of their own who are ninja, but loyal mainly to them, try to take out the boy, and his escort would be collateral damage at most, but taking out somebody as important as Ibiki Marino, that would be suicide. Especially since retribution is one of Ibiki's specialties when somebody tries to cross him. So is Ibiki interrogating the ninja now? Inochi asked, concerned about both the boy and his friend. Depends on how much the Ice Queens have left for him, Hiruzen said, causing everyone, including the ENBU in the room, to shiver because of the fact that those foresee Naruto as a little brother and like overprotective sisters if you try to harm them in any way, and then be ready to notify your next of kin. Deciding to continue. And because of the failed attempt on his life, Naruto has awakened an old dojutsu, one that has only been mentioned in legends, and more powerful than the Sharingan and Byakugan combined. This got everybody's attention, especially the civilian council, most of which don't like the idea of the demon becoming any stronger while the rest see potential in gaining more power, and Fugaku, due to him and his clan soaking in the fact that they have the most powerful eyes in the world. Shikaka Nara, the Jonin commander, and head of a clan full of lazy-ass geniuses, or at least whenever their wives don't catch them sleeping on the job, spoke up. Naruto got the Rinnegan, he said, while thinking Minato, Kushina, your son is making you both seem less troublesome. This definitely got every ninja and ex-ninja's attention since the Rinnegan became as mysterious as the Sage of Six Paths. Everything about the man died just as he did, as well as those that knew him personally or knew of him during that time period. Although that never stops Naruto and Jiraiya, his most loyal student and supplier of his favorite books, from making cracks about Hiruzen's age. Not just any Rinnegan, but one that helps starts a clan, Hiruzen said, causing most of the clan heads' eyes to pop out of their skulls, while Fugaku was seething in anger. That's right, Naruto has the Rinnegan that also served as the prototype for the Sharingan. Meanwhile, Naruto is at the hospital talking to Ayame, daughter of Tuchi, owner of Ichiraka's Ramen, telling her about that prank on Kakashi. She was laughing hard because the boy was not afraid to exploit a person's weakness when it comes to pranks. She laughed harder when he told her how he accidentally made up a truth, and that Kakashi and that one male ENBU fainted again when the female ENBU accidentally blurted out the truth. While Ayame might have a small crush on Kakashi, the one thing that irritated the hell out of her was that he always read those perverted Ika books when he isn't busy. Besides a usual visit to the boy, Ayame was there to deliver some ramen to the boy with the Hokage's blessing, mainly to annoy the hospital staff. While people have considered hospital food to taste so bad that it just might kill you, the staff tried to make it lethal for the boy by pouring some poison into his food, which proved unsuccessful since the QB helped not only remove the toxin, but also immunity to it to avoid a second attempt. Said staff responsible for the deed was executed, despite the attempted intervention of the civilian council, claiming that they were doing the village a service by trying to avenge the fourth. So Naruto, what happened to your eyes? Ayame asked, curious about how his eyes went from ocean blue to ripple purple. Thinking about his words carefully, especially when it involves QB. It's a family bloodline, something that I need to be careful on since those stupid villagers would try harder to get rid of me, Naruto said, causing everybody in the room to shake their heads. And since this bloodline involves my eyes, that means I'll probably have the Uchihas and the Hyugas to deal with. While I tried to keep the boy's spirits up, the ANBU in the room were thinking something differently about what the boy just said earlier. Right now, the only Hyugas the boy might have to deal with are those of the main house and the clan elders, while Hayashi might be more acceptable, considering what his wife would do to him if he didn't. The Uchihas would be the biggest issue because of the fact that they are used to being the most powerful in the village. And once word gets out that the young Uzumaki has a dojutsu that might be more powerful than theirs, they would try to destroy him to satisfy their bruised egos. A month later, Hiruzen is going over some important papers, while destroying the usual requests to get rid of Naruto, either through death or exiled, and to try and use ninjas for personal tasks, which was just from the civilians. He has received reports from the Yanbu guarding Naruto on how most of the Uchihas have constantly tried to kill the boy because of the fact that if this boy were to restart the Uzumaki clan in Konoha, especially if the CRA was to be put into play, plus the possibility that the blonde would have Sinja blood in him, then he would bring back two clans back. Then the Uchiha clan would be back in second place, possibly tied with the Hyugas. What nobody knew was the possibility of a third clan being brought back, well, except maybe a very small few, like Minato's closest friends in Shikaku, since the Nara clan are known to figure things out very quickly, but too lazy to say anything unless it was brought up. What made it worse was when the Hyuga elders decided to use some of the branch members, some of which were also Konoha ninjas, to take out Naruto. This brought them down because of the fact that they thought that they would have clan immunity when they say that they were handling a threat to the clan. Hiruzen countered by pointing out that rule only works if the threat was from another member within the clan. Outside, it's considered attempted murder and the power of the village exceeds those of the clans. Now Hayashi selected a new council that was at least around his age, and right now the hardest thing he is going through is getting the clan to become reunified by removing the caged bird seal and merging both houses together. The month also produced a couple of things useful. Flashback. It was the day after that Naruto was put in the hospital and Hiruzen was waiting for the boy to show up at his office, along with Yugao and Itachi, who were making sure that the boy showed up in one piece. The one thing he is getting sick of are people going behind his back to attack Naruto in the name of Minato, while also the civilian council trying to see what loopholes they can exploit. Right now, with all the power the civilian council has, he can't help but wonder if they threw in a few laws between Minato's fall and his return to the seat. So he has his two former teammates going over the laws to see if anything seems out of the ordinary in order to balance things out again. Plus, thanks to the info that Ibiki from the would-be assassin, the council member that orchestrated the whole thing lost all their power and is now going to be in prison along with those company of those who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, in more ways than one. A soft knock was heard. "Come in, Naruto," Hiruzen said, when the boy came in with his escorts. "Hey Gramps, how far are you in that book?" Naruto asked, not resisting the urge to put the old man on the spot. Hiruzen felt a slight shiver when Yugao and the other female NBU were giving him a look that promised some kind of retribution, whether he is innocent or not. Something he picked up from his wife when his favorite student started to write said books. While as much as he would try to get even with the boy, he knows that it results in brutally humiliating retaliation. "Anyway, Naruto, you have something you wanted to discuss with me?" Hiruzen said, trying to get the attention off of him. "Yeah, but like I said," Naruto said, knowing that his adopted grandfather would understand the meaning. Hiruzen nodded his head at this. "ANBU, give us some privacy, including all of you in the shadows," he said, causing puffs of smoke to appear at where they were located at, after activating the privacy seal. "So Naruto, what was that one thing you didn't want to discuss in front of others?" Naruto gave a deep breath, knowing that even though the old man knows about the whole truth behind the attack, about how Madara Uchiha came along and destroyed Konoha, but also destroyed his family and had a big hand on why he was alone in the world, yet what he had to say might be past too much. "I think I can bring the QB out without killing the both of us," he said, while beginning a countdown inside his head. When he got to 0, "Naruto, are you crazy? You know how crazy the villagers will get if the QB gets out," Hiruzen said out of concern, not just for Naruto, but for QB as well, since she was basically not only keeping the boy alive, but also his closest friend, since most of the parents try to keep their kids away from him, even if it does prove that you are both separate beings. Seeing that the old man is done ranting, Yeah, if she wants that option, Naruto said, really getting the old man's full attention, deciding to explain the part about how he can somehow read seals like he would a book and how Kyuubi believes it might be an inherited factor from both parents. And what Kyuubi wants is to be released as a full-blooded human, so that way she can actually have a second chance in life, giving the old man a new surprised look. Plus, considering the fact that she has been nothing more than a prisoner since Mito Uzumaki sealed her inside herself, I don't blame her for wanting to get back out to experience freedom again. Hiruzen's face went from surprise to solemn. Ever since Naruto became a link between him and Kyuubi, he started to get a new understanding about the nine-tailed beasts and how badly they have been represented throughout history. From what he has learned from Kyuubi, is that all they wanted in life is to enjoy it the same way humans do, but it is because of humans forcing them inside the bodies of other humans that led to how they are perceived, as well as their containers. In some ways, it just goes to show that the most dangerous thing in the world is human ignorance and human negligence, while the so-called demons are just living creatures that are dragged into things they don't want anything to do with. I sense that there is a but coming. He said, the one thing he learned a long time ago is that no matter how good things sound, there is always a but coming to remind you that there is always a catch involved. Well, considering that when Kyuubi gets to be reborn as a human, she'll end up having human chakra, meaning that her demonic chakra will have to go somewhere, meaning into me, Naruto said, with Hiruzen understanding right away where this was going, showing why he is known as the Professor, which in turn would make me a Hanyu, and I'm not sure what kind of changes I'll be going through. Knowing when to leave things alone when he needs to, and I'm to assume that you want something from me. Am I correct? Hiruzen said. I need training, Naruto said, not just with my eyes, but everything I would need to learn to become a ninja, seals, and all the basic stuff I would need to learn. I know that I can wait for the academy, but I get a bad feeling about it. While glad that the boy knew that he would need help in getting stronger, he felt disappointment because the boy's feelings were founded. Before he came back into power, the civilian council took over the academy and made a whole bunch of ridiculous changes, making it friendlier towards their kids, while making it seem like child's play to those from ninja clans or have parents who are ninjas. What made it more ridiculous was when they replaced a good portion of the interest classes like Fuinjutsu and Kenjutsu for things like etiquette and flower arrangements for the girls. And considering how a good portion of the village feels about Naruto, chances are the council will try hard to sabotage the boy's progress, so that way he would become an easy target for anybody. Okay, I'll make the arrangements, Hiruzen said. If that is it, would you please tell the ANBU who were on guard duty to come back in? When the old man went back to his paperwork after canceling the jutsu, Kyuubi told him the perfect prank that would make the old monkey crack. Hey, by the way, a friend of mine told me that they've seen the fourth do some kind of clones to do the paperwork, although I thought clones were just illusions, Naruto said. Hiruzen knew what clones Naruto was talking about. Oh, you mean the shadow clone jutsu? He said, smiling at the boy's never-ending quest for knowledge. While you normally would be right, but shadow clones are completely solid. Yeah, but wouldn't he have to read the papers anyway to find out what they said? Naruto asked, knowing what the next answer would do. Oh no, the memory of the clone gets passed on to the owner, Hiruzen said, before the smiling face dropped to a grim face, when it clicked on what Minato's secret was. Luckily, Naruto already stepped out to tell the ANBU to give him a few minutes, when Minato, you sneaky son of a bitch. Flashback ends. After using every curse he could think of, while also making sure to not reveal any secrets that can get the boy into even deeper trouble, he made arrangements for the boy to start his training earlier than most clan prodigies would. From Itachi and Kakashi helping with his dojutsu and ninjutsu, all the way to help from the wives of the clan heads teaching everything he would learn if Minato and Kushina were still around. The ramen obsession, completely inherited from both. He even taught the boy a few things, along with some of basics on seals, considering that the best teacher for the job is Jiraiya, as long as he isn't too focused on his research. Thanks to Naruto learning the shadow clone technique, his training went faster than it would most of his lifetime. This was when a familiar knock was heard. Come in, Naruto, Hiruzen said, when the boy came in with a big smile. So I take it that today is the big day. Yeah, I'm ready to set Kyuubi free, Naruto said. Yeah, I'm ready to set Kyuubi free, Naruto said. But before I start, I need you to do two things for us that are pretty much connected, he said, getting a small nod from the old man. First is we need you to have all male ANBU leave the room, and the other is we need a female ANBU to do some clothes shopping. When Hiruzen raised an eyebrow, causing Naruto to give a small sigh. Let's just say in my head, Kyubi is in the human form she wants, and she has clothes on. When she comes out, she can't take the clothes with her. Hiruzen gave an understanding nod at this. No matter what form the Kyubi will be, if there are a bunch of males around when a naked little girl literally pops in, all hell will break loose, especially from the Ice Queens, who somehow tend to think all males are perverts, at least the adult ones. And you too trust me? Well, yeah, even though you're a dirty old man who probably taught the author of those books a few things, Naruto said, causing a sour look to appear on said man's face, Thundercloud included, while some snickers could be heard in the background, especially since he couldn't say out loud that Jiraiya is a natural-born pervert without consequences upon himself or his student upon his return. We know that there are lines that even you would never cross, so we trust you to do the right thing. While he is glad that his other student, Orochimaru, wasn't mentioned, especially since nobody knows what team he plays for when it comes to romance, at the same time, he can't help but feel disappointed about the darkness the village contains, like how the people that had high hopes for Orochimaru took their disappointment on Anko when his intentions were revealed just before he became Konoha's most dangerous missing nin. Okay, understood. Weasel, please go outside and tell the other ANBU to not enter until I give the word no matter what, and also to keep everybody out, especially the civilian council, also for both of you. This is strictly top secret until Naruto and Kyubi see fit to reveal everything. A slight poof could be heard in the background, indicating that the order was being followed. Butterfly, since you're the only kunoichi in the room, please pick up enough clothes to help the Kyubi have a decent start. And I'm not sure if it would make any kind of difference, but she is as thin as me and reaches up to my eyes, Naruto said. When the last poof was heard, before he can stop himself. So Naruto, why didn't you give Butterfly a better measurement? Hiruzen asked. Naruto gave him a confused look. What kind of measurements was I supposed to give her? He asked back. Before he can answer that, he remembered that while Naruto is smart for a 4-year-old, he is still too young to understand some things, or allowed to learn without consequence, especially when it comes to the human body, and since Kyubi will be coming out the same age as him, the only main difference between the two biologically would be between their legs. Slap his hand met his face when Hiruzen realized two things. One, by asking Naruto about Kyubi's measurements before they start to change at puberty. He almost gave the blonde the talk earlier than he should. While two, both question and answer make him sound like the worst kind of enemy, a pedophile. Never mind. Something you aren't ready for at the moment, he said, hoping both Naruto and Kyubi would forget all about it when the time comes for nature to change a few things. While on the outside, Naruto was keeping a cool head. On the inside, Kyubi was having trouble due to all of the laughing she was doing right now. What just about everyone in the village don't know is that Naruto knows way more than he should for his age, even a little bit about the difference between the bodies of boys and girls, and how they change at certain point in the future, thanks to him accidentally finding one of Kakashi's Ika books that fell out of his pouch, and Naruto was the one to find it. While Kyubi only gave him the basics, promising him that he wasn't ready to learn how to fully understand what else their private parts are used for other than peeing. When Kakashi returned to reclaim his book, he knew that the Ice Queens and anybody close to Naruto, especially the female portion, would make him cease to exist if they started to think that there is another Kakashi in the making. So in return for keeping what he read in the book a secret, Kakashi agreed to take care of Naruto's shopping since the civilian stores would rather shut down than treat Naruto like a child with too much on his shoulders. After recovering from her tension breaker, thanks to her nerves, why didn't you at least hinted to him that you knew what he was talking about? Kyubi asked. You mean besides trying to see if I can get one of the most powerful people to sweat out of fear? Naruto asked, causing Kyubi to try and keep herself from laughing again, especially after remembering all the times Mito and Kushina would make people like Tobirama and Minato feel like a kid who got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. I wanted to help lighten the load that Gramps already has on his shoulders when it comes to me. You know what the haters in the village would do if they heard that I already knew something personal about girls? This was enough to get Kyubi to sober up, knowing exactly what they would do. They would demand his head even more because the demon is planning to mate, and they want to stop any spawns from being created. Deciding to go for a different subject. You know, Naruto, for somebody to know so much at your age, It's really a sign of a young prodigy. Hiruzen said, well, considering how my life started out and how I'm being treated by a bunch of idiots, what other choice do I have? Naruto asked. It was either get stronger, no matter what people try on me, or let win by becoming what they think of me. Hiruzen couldn't help but to feel both sad and disappointed. Sad because a child is forced to grow up faster to where childhood isn't much of an option, and disappointed because it was the very people that he is supposed to protect that are causing this. What makes it even worse is all the stories he hears about how other villages are treating their containers, and he couldn't help but feel sick at how they are treated over decisions that wasn't theirs to make to begin with. And if they do go berserk, it's the fault of the person defending themselves, not those who give them a reason to. I would like to apologize to you for not doing enough for you in the village, Naruto, he said. And you know the reason why I never revealed your heritage to the village was to keep your father's enemies from attacking us when we were at our weakest. Outside of the village, I understand. But did he have any enemies in the village? Naruto asked, getting a questioning look from the old man. I mean, are there people in the village who can see who I remind them the most and go far enough to make sure Pops doesn't become a grandpop? Before they can continue, the butterfly Yinbiyu returned with a few shopping bags. Where do you want these? Naruto pointed towards near the door that leads to the Hokage's personal room, which included a bath, when she placed the bags at the designated location, with a couple of bags still in her hands. I got your friend enough things to last her at least a couple of weeks. Thank you, Naruto said, before pointed towards her hands. And you're not by any chance a recovering shopaholic? Nobody knew how, but the butterfly Yinbiyu was blushing like crazy, along with the mask, before making her exit via Shunshin. Anyway, do you have the stuff I need to make the seals? Naruto asked, just as Hiruzen handed him a small quill and bottle of ink. While watching the boy getting to work on drawing a seal onto the floor with perfect accuracy, Hiruzen couldn't help but feel more proud since the blonde picked up calligraphy just as quickly as his father did, amongst other things, making him a prodigy at a young age, with a touch of his mother's personality. Heaven forbid if Naruto were to inherit Kushina's habit of strike out the culprits period, screw the questions. From everything he has seen, Hiruzen could tell that Naruto is a prodigy in the making, just like father and Itachi Uchiha, somebody you would be proud of to share with the world. The only major thing keeping him from reaching his true full potential are the bigot villagers who can't seem to move on from their losses and making Naruto seem like the cause for it, with the civilian council making things worse because they get to make money off of the boy's misery and try to find if there are any loopholes in the law they can exploit and keep the oppressors out of jail considering the boy is under their jurisdiction. The other thing that is starting to become a big deal is the Uchiha clan and the Hyugas from the main house. While the Uchihas have their own prodigy in Itachi, and Hayashi has been telling them about his nephew, Neji, who is about a year or two older than Naruto. With the Uchiha's proud history of being one of the founders of the village, with their all-powerful Sharingan eyes that can copy techniques and control their opponents through forms of hypnosis, along with Jinjutsu, the idea of an useless Uzumaki orphan having the more powerful Rinnegan that made their eyes possible is just insulting because of powerful the boy could become if left alone long enough. The main branch of the Hyuga are probably just as bad, if not worse, than the Uchihas considering how most of them treat their families like servants and thinking that they are royalty while the rest of the village, including the Hokage, should be worshipping the very ground they walk on. Right now they are steaming because not only were the elders detained for being considered a threat to the village, all because they sent some branch members after a boy because he has the true ultimate dojutsu, but also said boy is being protected by the Hokage, their own clan head, Hayashi, and most of the ninja clans, minus the Uchiha. Plus, with a new set of elders that are willing to work with Hayashi's idea of reunification of the clan, which in their minds is giving power to the help, and with the backing of Hiruzen, they can't make the side branch just disappear without raising any kind of suspicion, especially the ones registered as ninjas. When Naruto finished drawing a seal on the floor and around the seal on his navel, he noticed that Hiruzen was lost in his own thoughts. This was something one would think Hiruzen should have learned earlier not to do, especially when in the presence of a young child, even when the young prankster is in the room. While Naruto knew everybody's weakness through their habits, he also knew a little something about their fears, and for a dirty old man like Hiruzen, his greatest fear is when the strongest anti-pervert goes into pervert elimination mode. Look out, Gramps. Tsunade is about to turn you into wall paste. He yelled out. This had two effects from Hiruzen. One being that he screamed like a little girl, something that Naruto is never going to let him forget about. The other being a really foul smell filling the room. When he recovered, realizing he has been had, just before he can yell out at Naruto, he felt that his chair was a little saggy. After getting a good whiff, he realized why and vanished in a poof of smoke to get a clean pair of shorts. A few minutes later, he returned with a clean ass, but the red in his face pretty much said he was mad over how embarrassed he was that he was outsmarted by a boy who hasn't even started school yet. Naruto, why did you do that? Hiruzen said, trying hard not to blow his top. What? I was about to tell you that I was finished with the seals and you were stuck in your mind. You know how hard it is to get you out of it, Naruto answered, causing Hiruzen to just feeling embarrassed with a hand behind his head because he knows what he said was true. What else was I supposed to do? Start another bonfire with those books. Now Hiruzen went from red to white because the last time he did that, not only did some of the men wanted to kill the boy for such demonic acts, some of the young women became big supporters of his, considering how much most of the female population hate those god-awful books and protected him from the men. While sure, some of those girls are now nothing more than acquaintances to Naruto, yet now they do a little more to make sure the blonde never has a reason to be like the container in Suna. So Naruto, are you ready to begin? Hiruzen asked. The boy gave a small nod. Yeah, and I hope you have a few E&BU ready outside the building in case somebody wants to take another shot at me, Naruto said, before doing about 50 seals, which led to his hands to start glowing. Okay, brace yourself. When Naruto placed one hand on his navel and the other on the floor, both started to glow, before a bright light started to form into something solid on the floor. What was really getting Hiruzen's attention was what looked like chakra of multiple colors were being drawn from thin air, different colors, like as if the world is helping to give Kyuubi a second life. About half an hour later, when the light got brighter and started to go from a small lump to taking the shape of a small human, obviously a girl due to the long hair that developed a few minutes earlier. When the light finally died down into the girl, the movement coming from her upper body indicating that she was taking her first of fresh air for the first time in a very long time, since Mito Uzumaki became her container. When she stood straight up, her lids opened to reveal a pair of hazel eyes, with her fiery red hair reaching down to cover her, but which was the only thing being covered because, like Naruto said, the only suit she was wearing at the moment is her birthday suit. After taking a look around at her new, now permanent surroundings, she found what, or rather whom, she was looking for. Breaking in her new legs, she tackled the blonde to the ground, yelling out thank you like a machine gun firing. While Naruto was a bit oblivious about Kyuubi being nude, he was still blushing due to instincts that only his body seems to know. Kyuubi, as much as I'm enjoying this, would you please put some clothes on? Remembering who else is in the room, and turning her head enough to see where he is, she realizes that with the position she was in, she was giving him a good view of her, but in a certain part of her anatomy. Even though he would never think of such vile things about children, it was still embarrassing as hell for her to be in such a position. So, after becoming redder than a tomato, jumped to her feet and ran towards the empty, grabbing the bags that the ENBU dropped off. While Naruto was slowly getting back up onto his feet, the smile on Hiruzen's face just grew a bit, because no matter how young the prodigies are, sometimes strength of heart can overpower anything. As much as he would want to put Naruto on the spot, some of his jokes would go over his head, and if he were to ask any of the Ice Queens, Sum, or any of the clan wives, they would things to him that Kushina herself have promised to do to him whenever she had her girly moments, especially when it came to Minato. While he can't use anything that would be found in his students' books, he can still act like the grandfather figure that most people see him as, especially those who tend to fall under the villagers' prejudice, which never seems to end, ever. So Naruto, how does it feel to be hugged by a girl? He asked, which caused the boy to become even redder. It felt nice, but I feel weird for some reason, Naruto said, giving him the typical response of any child. No matter how mature the child can be at a young age, when it comes to certain feelings, they can still be clueless on how to deal with them. Hiruzen gave a small chuckle at this, especially when it came to remembering all the times he had to keep his sons on the straight and narrow when it came to girls. Don't worry, my boy, those weird feelings will turn out to become something wonderful, he said, While picturing how Naruto would react if by some chance the council tries to force Naruto into the CRA after they decide that it would be better to preserve an ancient bloodline, while also hoping to use their own daughters to help obtain more control over a village that is supposed to be run by shinobi. Hope I don't end up like that old coot I met at the hot springs, Naruto said. Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle at the memory of how Naruto first met Jiraiya, Toad Sage and self-proclaimed super pervert, and his godfather. While Naruto knew who his godparents are, and that they were supposed to take care of him if anything were to happen to keep his parents from raising him themselves, like death, and he said that they would have to earn his love and respect, as well as forgiveness for leaving him to the wolves just to pursue their own endeavors. What Naruto was referring to was when, after he finished his training session with Itachi and Kakashi, when they decided to treat him to a day at the hot spring, while also threatening the person there what were to happen if she were to deny Naruto in any way. After getting settled in, they heard a slight giggling in a tree nearby, which after looking was Jiraiya doing his research. Due to Naruto's innate ability to pull a fast one, he found a small pebble and, thanks to his wind chakra, sent it flying into the man's butt, which in turn caused him to leap off of the branch he was on and into the women's side of the hot springs. That was how Hiruzen and most of Konoha knew that he was back. When they hear the girly scream of pain that only occurs when the super pervert gets busted and has to pay a price. When he was thrown out after getting pounded, Jiraiya chewed out the boy for getting him caught, while dusting himself off, only for Naruto to add insult to injury by using the women's maternal instinct on him by doing the hurt children bit, making it sound like he was being threatened by the oldest man in springs, resulting in a hand to reach out, grab Jiraiya by hair, and yanked him back into the other side of the fence, going for another round of femme fatale, this time making the first one seem like nothing more than a playground brawl. After recovering and meeting the old man, Jiraiya was finally able to realize that he has been played twice by the son of the two that he loved as children, even though they had the same habit of busting his chops about his favorite pastime. Learning about Naruto's life from after Minato's death to when he gained the original Rinnegan, he realized that dropping off gifts and hoping he would get the money he sent him to live off of wasn't enough, especially since too many people thought they had the right to get revenge on a boy whose only real crime was being born when life was being lost, and forced to carry a burden that the rest of the village would be too much of a coward to accept. Right now, Jiraiya is on the lookout for Tsunade and her protege, Shizune, back to Konoha, along with the promise of calling in a debt she owes Hiruzen for letting her wander in her own misery for so long. Don't worry, Naruto. As long as you give people the respect they deserve, especially girls, then in the long run, they will be more than glad to return the favor, Hiruzen said, although he was pretty sure that if Kushina was still alive, then she would make extremely and lethally sure that her boys would never become the next Jiraiya. Kakashi, he would have been pounded into the ground if he was crazy enough to read said man's books in front of her. This was when Kyubi came back, wearing a simple white sundress with blue sandals on her feet. With a good look, some people could say she could pass for a girly version of Kushina, considering how much of a tomboy she described herself as when she told stories of her life in Yuzushio. When he watched Naruto looking at her with some kind of interest, especially since he probably has no idea what, he couldn't help but think back when Minato and Kushina, which was like this, but a big age gap between the two. Wow, Kyubi, you look really pretty, Naruto said. Kyubi's face became hidden under the hair to help hide the blush that was starting to appear on her face. Thank you, Naruto, she said. Hiruzen couldn't help but feel like a small case of deja vu hitting him, the difference being that Minato had trouble shutting up to the point where Kushina's fist shut him up before his foot could. Getting back to business. So when is Naruto supposed to absorb your old chakra? He asked the pair. Kyubi went into a thinking position before saying, right about now. And just before they knew it, bright yellow chakra flew out of Naruto, hitting the roof, becoming bright enough to make the Hokage Tower look like a lighthouse. This got a good portion of the village's attention, especially those believing that the demon is showing his true colors to the Hokage, while their counselors decided to call a quick meeting in order to prepare for the boy's permanent removal. The scream of pain was a bit unbearable considering the changes Naruto's body is going through, while Kyubi and Hiruzen had their eyes covered due to the light. Even though the light was bright, they can still make out an outline of the boy that was changing to show not only his body growing, but also some things growing out of it. After a while, when things calmed down, the two blinked their eyes a couple of times before doing a double take on what they're seeing now. Before them stood a slightly taller Naruto, with a pair of fox ears on his head, sticking out of his now red-streaked blonde hair, along with his Rinnegan Sharingan eyes gaining 2 tomos each, adding to the 2 he gained along the way, totaling to 5 each. While in awe, both couldn't help but feel that something is missing. When they were about to ask him about it, they noticed that he looked like he was about to pass out from pain. While the third was a bit clueless, Kyubi knew exactly what that pain was, even though she no longer carries that particular part. Looking down to confirm it, she could see bulges in both pant legs. His tails are caught in his pants, she explained, getting the man's attention. While not knowing the feeling of such pain, Hiruzen couldn't help but flinch. Getting up from his chair and walking up to his surrogate grandson, "Let's get you some relief from the pain," he said, before leading the boy towards the other room. A loud yow was heard. When they stepped out, Naruto now has 9 tails sticking out behind him. This was when Kyubi went girly and tackled him into the ground once again, while getting a feel of the new Naruto, especially the fluffy tail. Hiruzen chuckled because he can picture that being Kushina before she threatened retribution towards anybody who would say a word of this outside the office. Deciding to get back to business, he gave a small cough, causing Kyubi to jump back onto her feet, blushing for her moment of weakness. "So Naruto, how do you feel?" Hiruzen asked, with some concern, while also trying to figure what needs to be worked out with Naruto's physical instructors. "A little weird, but the good kind," Naruto answered. "Although I'm still trying to get used to having tails and ears that move. Now all we need to do is place a Jinjutsu on you in order to hide your true appearance," Hiruzen said. "Nah, I'll stay the way I am," Naruto said, "considering how badly they flipped when they saw my eyes, and there are still ninja not loyal to you completely, they would dispel it just to help get some mobs started." This caused Hiruzen to frown, because the ninjas that came from civilian families, especially the ones with connections to the council. Besides, can you picture the look on everyone's face when we tell them that they created a demon? Everybody laughed at this. While it was wishful thinking, they knew that the villagers would try to deny it, and the civilian council would try to make it where the laws apply only to humans, without thinking about the double-edged sword. "Anyway, we need to give you a new name," Naruto said, turning to Kyubi. "Calling you Kyubi out there, I don't know what they would do to you." Hiruzen did, and even with the new name, they would be better off not knowing what some of the villagers would do to her for just being with Naruto, which is why he would place a kill-on-sight order to his ANBU on anybody who dares to cross that line, even if it is a council member or somebody of high status. "I agree. A new name would help complete the new life you want to live." Kyubi nodded in understanding. "That would be fine with me, but the only names I know are of my siblings," she said. While Hiruzen nodded at this, Naruto was already thinking of a name. "Hey, how about Misaki Aiko?" he suggested. Knowing the meaning, which is beautiful bloom, little loved one, Kyubi, now Misaki Aiko, nodded her head, blushing a bit. "I like it," she said. "As do I," Hiruzen said. "I'll make sure to get all the necessary paperwork done and pass my secretary so that way the wrong people won't know the truth." Then he looked towards the new fox boy. "And Naruto, I'll have Kakashi do the necessary shopping considering that all of your current clothes will no longer fit you." "Thanks, Gramps," Naruto said, opening the door. Before he could set foot out the door, the ground shook, and everybody's eyes went wide just as something tackled Naruto. While Hiruzen nodded at this, Naruto was already thinking of a name. "Hey, how about Misaki Aiko?" he suggested. Knowing the meaning, which is beautiful bloom, little loved one, Kyubi, now Misaki Aiko, nodded her head, blushing a bit. "I like it," she said. "As do I," Hiruzen said. "I'll make sure to get all the necessary paperwork done and pass my secretary so that way the wrong people won't know the truth." Then he looked towards the new fox boy. "And Naruto, I'll have Kakashi do the necessary shopping considering that all of your current clothes will no longer fit you." "Thanks, Gramps," Naruto said, opening the door. Before he could set foot out the door, the ground shook, and everybody's eyes went wide just as something tackled Naruto to the ground. When the dust settled, Hiruzen's eyes went wide, while Misaki felt a bit jealous, because under a pile of girls of different ages was Naruto, with his ears and tails getting all of the attention. Judging by the looks of things, including Misaki, there is an even dozen of girls in the room. The one mentioned looked like she wanted to defend the boy, although not entirely sure, considering that her feelings are still those of a 4-year-old, considering that her hand was twitching. Getting a good look at who was petting Naruto, he could see 5 girls around Naruto's age, give or take a few months, a pink-haired and blonde, who were rubbing an ear and his cheek, each with their own, being near the whiskers that become more defined through the transformation, while using a hand to scratch said ears, while the other 3, one a brunette and the other 2 with black hair. Next there were 4 grown women, which he can assume are their mothers, a blonde, a brunette, an older brunette, and a dark-haired woman. The other 2 are his own A and BU, one with the butterfly mask that did Misaki's shopping, and the other had a cat mask on it. When the blonde by Naruto's ear yelled out, "Hey you, don't you want to join in?" Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle when Misaki charged in and started to rub Naruto's whiskers, along with the rest of his face, which was the only thing left not being petted. Right now, if Naruto's features can be passed down with the Rinnegan, then that would be 2 bloodlines, along with the abilities that the Uzumaki clan are known for. Then he would be forced into the CRA by the civilian councils, and he, along with the rest, would have to oblige to it, especially since it would be for the good of the village. God, there are times he hated that line with a vengeance, especially when it involves human lives, even more so when he has to make the choices that nobody wants, including Danzo, after almost getting too close to crossing that one point after using that line one too many times. Yet the one thing that can be negotiated, whether the civilians like it or not, especially since it would be a ninja clan that is going to be rebuilt, was the minimal number of girls for Naruto to marry, and what age he needs to be in order to impregnate a girl, because there will be no way in hell that he, the elders, and the clan heads would ever force Naruto to start too early to where he hasn't started puberty, or just starting it. One good thing that might be going for Naruto is that he already has a head start on it to where whatever number the council decides. He already has 6 girls that would destroy any plans of theirs to try and get one of their daughters to be a part of it. And considering the fact that he can recognize the mothers, then he knows that Naruto wouldn't have to worry about gold diggers and status climbers, especially considering how close they are to Kushina. When his perverted side tried to kick in by saying, "Lucky little bastard," and picturing what Naruto and the young girls would look in the future, fully grown, and reenacting a scene, he shook his head to get those thoughts out before they get him killed, because while the only thing Naruto can do is prank him to the point of utter humiliation, thanks to his inherited hatred towards perverts he got from both parents, being in the presence of mothers, and 2 A and BU, one being part of the infamous Ice Queens, they would downright pound the living daylights out of him, with a vengeance, because there are young children around. After seeing Naruto's face about to explode from embarrassment, and for some really strange reason, the mothers are already planning the wedding, or rather declaring whose would be better, and whose grandchildren will be better, causing a sweat drop to appear on the old man, along with the male A and BU. Hiruzen decided to stop now before they reached their great-grandkids, so with a light cough, which was enough to get everybody's attention, giving them a slight chuckle. "Ladies, as much as I enjoy your enthusiasm for the future, but I need to remind you that young Naruto Uzumaki is still 4 years old, and still has a lot of growing up to do before he can even reach that stage," he said, causing the mothers to blush in embarrassment. "And while I'm at it, can you please let go of Naruto? He can use a break from all of the love right now." Seeing how Naruto was red, from the tip of his ears to the tip of all 9 of his tails, and the fact that he looked like he was about to faint, with a slight they all let go and returned to their feet, with a little help getting back onto his feet by the 2 Yanbiyu, with the young girls standing on both sides of Naruto, forming part of a circle, while the mothers forming the other part. When the name registered to the mothers' minds, "Wait, Naruto Uzumaki, you mean as in?" One of the blondes started to ask, only to be stopped by the only male blonde in the room. Well, somewhat blonde. Excuse me, miss, but maybe we should do this when there aren't the risk of unnecessary ears in the room," Naruto said, "because you never know who is listening in, and also never know which side that person is working for." Hiruzen gave an understanding nod at this, because after thinking over what Naruto was trying to tell him about Minato having enemies inside and outside the village, he realized that all he was doing was delaying the inevitable by keeping the boy's lineage a secret, especially if any of the people in the village still hold a grudge against the man for trying to make sure that power within the village has some balance, while also not being afraid to bring down those who thought that they were above both the law and the Kage. "Very well, Cat, Butterfly, return to your posts," he ordered, getting another "ah" from them, and he was pretty sure they were pouting under the mask, being more ladylike than the rank they are given, but they complied since they are on the clock. When they reached the door, "Oh, and Kat, make sure to tell your friends to start expecting sisters in the future." He could tell that Yugao was smiling at that thought after figuring out what he was talking about. When the doors closed, Hiruzen applied the Kage seals, which doubles as both security and privacy seals, which he didn't apply the first time because he wasn't sure if it would have been strong enough for both Kyuubi's rebirth as Misaki and Naruto becoming a Hanyu. Now that we are safe to discuss private matters, how about we start off with introductions before we talk? After nodding, and knowing that right now, just about everything has something to do with him, "Well, I'll go first," Naruto said, while scratching the back of his head, while everyone female was fighting the urge to go all girly on him again. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, but in the future, Namikaze." This caught the mothers by surprise, while their daughters didn't seem to recognize the name, mainly because they are at the age of not really knowing or caring much about the history of Konoha, just the fairy tales that their parents read them in order to have a good night's sleep. Misaki stepped up. "Hi, I'm Misaki Aiko, and I just arrived here," she said, although, except for Naruto and Hiruzen, nobody knows how literally she meant that. The mothers decided to introduce for both themselves and their daughters, since said girls were looking a bit shy, judging by the slight blush on their cheeks, along with the huge smiles, and the fact that the first thing they seemed to be focused on Naruto's tail, probably wondering what it would be like to be wrapped by one of them, although they aren't any better. One of the blondes stepped up, this one having just a simple hairstyle. "Hello Naruto, my name is Mabuki Haruno, and the pink-haired girl is my daughter Sakura." Sakura gave a small wave, while her face was starting to match her hair more, while Mabuki tried hard not to do anything crazy, yet since she wants to give her friend's son some closure, especially from what he had to start off with in life. The brunette walked up next, looking a little shy, and after noticing that her eyes were pure white, no pupils whatsoever, meaning that she is a Hyuga, and getting a good look at two of the girls on both sides of him that have the same eyes, and one of them having a matching hair color, and he couldn't help but flinch a bit since his previous encounter with Hugo were far from pleasant, even though the ones attacking him were branch members who apologized for attacking him, especially since his eyes posed a threat to the order of things in the village. Seeing the flinch, she knew that Hayashi would have to also apologize personally to the boy for what went on behind his back. Giving him a slight bow. "Hello Naruto, I am Asami." Translation: Morning Beauty. Name courtesy of Creed Razor Reaper. "Thanks man. Hyuga, and the two girls on your sides are my twin daughters, Hinata and Hanabi," pointing to each girl when saying their names, so that he would know which is which, causing Hinata to touch her fingers, and Hanabi was getting ready to live up to her name judging by size of her smile, and the wave she gave, both blushing a bit more. "And also," she continued, although her eyes started to water up, "I would like to apologize on behalf of my husband, Hayashi, who is the clan head, and the Hyuga clan for what our elders tried to do behind his back, by trying to kill you for something just because of their own fears." This was when the black-haired woman stepped forward, after seeing her friend try to make amends for her clan's stupidity, and after seeing Naruto give her a flinch as well from remembering his experience with her clan trying to kill him as well. She felt just as bad because it was her best friend's son that was on so many people's assassination list, and her own husband pretty much encouraged the attacks, along with getting their youngest son ready to take the blonde out, trying to force him to become another prodigy like her oldest. "I would also like to apologize as well, Naruto, for what my clan has tried to do because of their wounded pride over who has the better eyes." After seeing Naruto calming down and looking like he has his mother's sense of who is lying or not, "My name is Mikoto Uchiha, and the girl on the end is my daughter, Dawn." Said girl, who was pretty much the mini version of her mother, just gave a small nod, while trying to hide her blush, and unlike most of our clan, myself, along with Dawn, and my eldest son, Itachi, don't believe in the fact that our eyes are what makes up great. Taking a look at the two women, who he can tell are strong, but are right now looking a bit fragile because of actions of those with too much power, Naruto knew what needs to be said. "You're forgiven," he said, and watching as their heads shot up, with the spark of hope shining in their eyes. "I know not to blame everybody for something that a bunch of bullies have done. I don't want to be like those people who keep blaming me for everything that goes wrong." The final woman, the brunette with her hair in a bun, and sporting a regal look, walked up and gave a respectful bow. Hello Naruto. My name is Juyamanaka, and the blonde by Sakura is my daughter, Ino. Said blonde had a big, face-splitting grin on her face when she gave a finger wave. After seeing that the intros are done, nice to meet everybody, and I get the feeling you four knew my parents in more ways than one. Naruto said. Oh yes, Asami answered. Except for Fugaku, we, along Tsum and the rest of the clan heads, along with their wives, were really close to your parents. And we'll be more than glad to tell you stories about them in the future, Mikoto said, betting an appreciative nod from the fox boy, including a few things that she would probably want to keep secret from you. In the afterlife, a certain redhead felt the urge to start smashing some skulls of people who know her too well. With everything out of the way, everyone was sitting down, Naruto and the girls on one couch, the mothers on the spare, while Hiruzen stayed in his regular seat, although the adults were smiling a bit at a blushing Naruto. The main reason being that the girls all wanted to sit by Naruto, so they came to a silent arrangement, or rather found an empty spot, and somehow, they all worked. Misaki and Dawn are both sitting on his lap, his arms being held by the Hyuga twins, and his legs, well, the parts closest to the floor, hugged by Sakura and Ino. And for an added bonus for them, each girl had a tail or two wrapped around them, making them feel safe and warm. This got the adults smiling and picturing what the future holds for them, although Hiruzen's was different from the mother's. While he is glad that the boy is having a head start at finding love, although somebody would have to explain it to him when he is getting closer to puberty, he can't help but picture how Minato and Kushina would react to this, especially since Kushina has a tendency to go overboard when excited. With the mothers, they couldn't help but feel pleased at how close their daughters have already become to their friend's son, although they also couldn't help but feel a lot of heartbreak while becoming in the future. Plus, they felt a bit envious with the girls for finding their future Teddy Fox so early. Deciding to get on with those. Well, Naruto, now that everybody is comfortable, he said, causing the kids to blush and the mothers to giggle. Go ahead and tell them everything, and I'll gladly fill in the gaps. Naruto gave a small nod and decided to tell them something that would double also as a bit of test on the people to see if they well follow their hearts or the crowd. Releasing a small sigh, he decided to start off with what happened about a month ago. Okay, you all know about me gaining a dojutsu, right? Naruto asked, getting a nod from everybody. Well, he started to explain, only to be interrupted by his fellow blonde. Wait, Naruto, you're the one who has the eyes that is supposed to be better than the Sharingan? Ino asked, looking excited. After giving her a nod. Can you show it to us? She asked, giving him the puppy dog eyes. Yeah, can you? Hanabi asked, double-teaming him with the same eyes. When the other four pretty much surrounded him with those eyes, he didn't stand a chance, which in turn gave him his first lesson about girls. They know how to fight dirty when they need to. So he gave another sigh, before looking back up and activating the Rinnegan Sharingan, which, by what looked like a ripple effect, his eyes went from a blue slit to purple with rings and tomes on it. Hiruzen couldn't help but chuckle at the boy's predicament, at how it didn't take long for him to give in to a simple request. Although since Naruto was pretty much outnumbered, he had as much of a chance resisting that as much as Kakashi avoiding a half-off sale of Ika Ika books. Looking at the mothers, while they are in awe like their daughters when it came to his eyes, he could also see that they had a small smile that says that they hope for the best, while at the same time, bracing for broken hearts. After Naruto tells his story, Hiruzen is going to give them some news that will be happening in the near future, which might make quite a few people happy. Deciding to get on with the story, Naruto turned off his eyes, to the disappointment of the girls. Anyway, I got these on my birthday, when some idiot tried to blow me and my bodyguard up, he said, continuing the story, causing the mothers to scowl at this, and the girls to gasp. And the reason why they did that is because 4 years ago, sometime after I was born, somebody came by and ripped the QB from my mother's belly. And not much was left out on what happened during the first 4 years. Well, there's only 4 years at the moment, in his life, with Hiruzen providing backup from Madara Uchiha, or somebody doing a pretty good impression of him, being the real reason why Naruto had a bad start in life, to who Misaki truly is, and now, I'm pretty much now part demon fox, while Misaki is getting a chance to live a life. When the focus turned to her, Misaki had her head down, her voice dripping with guilt. Do you hate me now since I was the reason why so many lives were destroyed or damaged because of my actions? She asked, waiting for somebody to attack her. Instead, she was surprised to feel not just Naruto's arms hugging her, but also the other girls. It's not your fault, Misaki. Somebody made you do all those things, Naruto said, while letting her use his shoulder to cry on, like how Hiruzen or the ramen chefs would do whenever he needed to let his emotions out. Hinata spoke up next. Yes, Misaki, we won't blame you for something you never wanted to do. And don't think we will think anything bad about you, ever. Sakura said. This finally broke the dam, because Misaki started to bawl out from all the love she was receiving, which caused a ripple effect since Naruto and the other 5 started to tear up. Outside the group, the mothers were smiling themselves, as well as tearing up, because their daughters are showing what they themselves would have done, along with making them realize even more that the nine-tailed demons are also creatures of feeling as well. Even Hiruzen was feeling proud that both Naruto and Misaki are having a fresh start in life, while also feeling a slight pain in his heart, because what Misaki went through, he has seen in the eyes of several of his ninja that were pretty much forced to do such vile deeds themselves, especially if they were orders given by himself, and felt such guilt for taking so many lives, especially from the innocent who weren't given a chance to enjoy the rest of their lives. While the kids are busy supporting the one that needs it, Hiruzen decided to have a chat with the mothers, to let them know what the future will be holding for the youngsters, so that they would have something to discuss at home with their husbands, when 3 of them will be hearing the same thing real soon. Well, looks like a bright future for the young ones are started to ignite with a single spark, he said, getting a slight nod from the mothers, while one of them gave out a small indeed as a response, especially when what took a couple of minutes, the young UNS separated and started to talk. And I have something that might make everyone in the room happy. Naruto interrupted him after something clicked him. Hey Gramps, what did you mean when you told Kat to tell her friends to expect sisters in the future? He asked, giving him a curious look that includes tilting his head, only to get tackled by the girls surrounding him, yelling out cute, due to how his fox looks tend to add to his cuteness for the girls. Hiruzen was laughing up a storm at the boys' predicament, especially when there are 4 grown women who look like they want to jump in at any second. Well, looks like the future of Naruto's clan is going to be in good hands, he said, deciding to drop the bombshell, especially since Naruto is being smothered by his future wives. This got the mother's attention, while Mabuki looked at the guy for even suggesting polygamy, or her daughter being close to be considered a concubine, while the other 3, being clan wives, had a good idea what the Hokage was pointing out. The Clan Restoration Act? Ju asked, understanding what Naruto knew bloodline would lead to. When Hiruzen gave a small nod. And you're planning Naruto's future for his clan already? Asami asked, isn't he a little too young to be planning a marriage? Hiruzen's smile dropped after the first question and gave a small sigh. I was going to wait until Naruto was old enough to know about the birds and the bees before offering it to him as a choice, especially if he still met the girls. Considering how he would never want to break someone's heart, then he probably would have, along with asking your daughter's opinions. He said, but after what just happened, the civilian council would find some law that would make it happen right away, especially after I stopped them from trying to kill him, especially if they try too hard to make sure that they get some kind of control over what was left to Naruto by his parents by using their own daughters. This was when Mikoto put it all together. And with our daughters, then not only can you negotiate a reasonable number, but also, Naruto should be safe from the rest of the village from trying to force him into marrying their daughters. She said, and if some of those girls are also from major clans, then he has political backing, especially if the clans are also close allies. Exactly, Hiruzen said. And if we can make sure the age to produce heirs when Naruto and some of the girls are at least at the age of consent, even when they are ninja, then we'll be giving them a chance to grow both as children, friends, and by the time they graduate the academy, something a bit more. This was when everybody's focus returned to the children, and they all can't help but laugh, because Naruto was trying to recover his breath, considering how blue his face is, with the girls apologizing for hugging him too hard. At least I know the boy would be in good hands, even if I don't live long enough for him to show me my first great-grandchild. After giving Naruto and the girls a brief and age-friendly version of what is about to come, they all nodded in agreement that they would give things a try, especially since the girls were blushing at the thought of marriage, which caused some smirks to appear on their mothers' faces, meaning that there will be some long-term teasing for a good long time. This was when a knock at the door got their attention. Removing the seal, enter. Hiruzen replied to the person on the other side, having a good idea what the reason is for being disturbed. The door opened to reveal Weasel, aka Itachi Uchiha, Lord Hokage. An emergency council meeting has been formed in you, as well as young Mr. Uzumaki's presence has been demanded, he said. And why didn't my secretary inform me? Hiruzen asked, while having a pretty good idea who called the meeting. Oh, she was getting too full of herself, so we thought that a trip to Ibiki would make her lose a few pounds from her head. Itachi answered, keeping a perfectly straight face, although those that knew him knew that he was more than glad to send her towards said man. Hiruzen gave a small sigh, knowing that he would need to start looking for another eligible secretary, one that wasn't suggested by the civilian council, since he was sure she was one to give them information that their eyes aren't allowed to see. Very well, me and Naruto will be on our way. You and Kat will be escorting Miss Aiko to Naruto's apartment and guard her while we fact the council, he said, as everybody got onto their feet and go their separate ways. When they all started to walk towards the door, don't forget the rest of your stuff, Misaki, Naruto said, making sure that his friend didn't forget the stuff that would help start her out on things in life. Oh yeah, thanks Naruto, Misaki said, before giving him a quick kiss on the cheek, before heading towards the room she left them, causing the other 5 girls to glare at her, not knowing that they are feeling jealousy for the first time. When she came back, Naruto turned towards the mother. Hey, if it's not too much trouble, but would any of you be kind enough to take Misaki shopping for more stuff? Naruto asked, looking towards the ground while his ears went flat. I'd go with her, but... Getting a hand on his head, he looked up to see Mikoto, along with the rest of the mothers, giving him an understanding smile. We would love to help your friend, she said, getting nods of agreement from the other mothers. When he started to smile, his ears went up, along with his tail starting to give a small wag. He was in danger of being smothered by 4 grown women again, along with Hiruzen in danger of perverted thoughts, since they would pick him up and hug them against their chests. In fact, we would be more than willing to take you out shopping as well, Naruto. Get you everything from clothes to the stuff you'll need in your apartment. Are you sure? Naruto asked, feeling concerned about the people he just met. I don't want you to. He was stopped by Asami, everyone glad that the boy was still selfless despite the selfish nature of most of the village. No, Naruto, we want to, and it's the least we can do for our friend's son, she said. And you don't have to worry, we know a few stores that would be glad to serve you, especially since some of them are run by people who opened them after the attack. Mabuki continued from there. And since you have already got a bit of a head start with your ninja training, we know the perfect store that would be more than glad to help you get what you need to get better, she said with a smile. The owner is a good friend of ours, along with a good portion of the ninjas, especially your parents, so he should be more than glad to help you with all your needs. Naruto gave them a thank you, while Hiruzen noticed the look on the women's faces, and while he too would recommend the ninja shop they are talking about to Naruto, he also had a sneaky suspicion that these ladies are probably planning to play matchmaker with said friend's daughter, who, like him, is nuts about weapons and a bit of a tomboy. Over at said weapons shop, a 5-year-old girl was watching her father making kunai when she had a weird feeling hit her in the heart. After looking around, she shrugged her shoulders and went back to watching her father at work. Back with the main group, Hiruzen and Naruto separated from the rest of the group, with Raven and Butterfly being the lookout for the girls, especially Misaki, when she is dropped off at Naruto's place. Last thing anybody wants are the villagers doing something really unforgivable. Even though he is still getting used to his body changing so much, with his tails just seem to be floating with the breeze as he walks, he was already thinking the possibilities of how they can be of use, whether fighting, or pranking, or shopping, or cuddling with the girls. Where did that come from? He thought, while a blush appeared on his face. Seeing the blush, Hiruzen, along with the ANBU, couldn't help but smile, because it was apparent that Naruto's heart became linked to girls his age, yet it's going to be a long time before he understands what his heart is telling him, especially if they keep a certain perverted Sannin from corrupting the boy in the ways of the human flesh. Hiruzen was tempted to tease the boy, yet at the same time, he knew when to keep his trap shut, since the boy would probably counter what he would have said with using his future nuptials as a way to bruise his perverted ego. When they reached the doors that led into the dreadful council chamber, made so because there are a bunch of civilians who try too hard to stick their noses into things that they shouldn't be, especially if it involves things that they have no clue on, like shinobi matter. And judging by the screaming, said group was going full charge with their vendetta. Giving off a small sigh, all 4 in the group, Hiruzen turned to face Naruto. "Are you ready to face the music?" he asked. Naruto just shook his head. "Not really, but it's not like I have many choices in my life," Naruto said. This caused the other three to feel sorry for the blonde since he was hardly given any choices involving his life. Looking up at them. "Anyway, do you have any sound seals for the civilian council? My head is starting to hurt just from being out here." Hiruzen had a depressed look on his face. "No, unfortunately, I do not, and it's still being researched to see how to apply it without violating somebody's rights," he said, and looking at the boy, or rather his new ears, he understood why he would ask, since the boy's body change would include stronger senses. "But I will make sure that the whole meeting is bearable enough for you." Both gave each other a small nod before walking into the lion's den. Inside of the chambers, while the civilians are spouting out nonsense about the demon showing its true colors and needs to be put down before it finishes the first attack, or to the rest of the room. Stop it so they don't end up paying for their own stupidity. The rest were ignoring them. Except for Fugaku, the clan heads, along with the three elders, were just playing a little card game to pass the time, since they learned a long time ago that the best way to beat the council was to either catch them completely off guard or just let them wear themselves out, while also keeping an eye out for any orders that would violate the laws of the village. Mainly, use their ninja training to help deal with politics. When the doors opened, there were two different responses when people got a look at the new Naruto. On one side, the one with the liberals looked like they were getting ready to have a heart attack, even though they don't seem to have hearts. On the other side, there are some that looked shocked, there's some that were curious, two were neutral, and the last two, the only ninjas/ex-ninjas in the room, were about to have a girly moment. Things were neutral until Naruto learned an important lesson that he will remember for the rest of his life. Slam. Yow. To make sure all tails are closer to his body whenever anything closes. "Open the door. Open the door," he yelled out, in rapid fire, until Hiruzen ran back and did as ordered and closed them as he watched as Naruto was holding the tails that were caught. "Are you feeling all right, Naruto?" Hiruzen asked, feeling a bit responsible for making sure his grandson didn't get hurt, even if it was accidental, and also, not his fault. "Yeah, I'm fine, Gramps, just feeling really sore," Naruto answered, while in the background, the elders and clan heads were rolling their eyes from their designated spots because the civilian were throwing insults towards the boys. When the Hokage walked towards his chair, with an evil look on his face that spelt trouble for those who are seriously pressing his patience. When he got to his spot, Naruto, who, even though his ears and tails are twitching slightly, he looked towards the civilian council and used a line known to be used by one shinobi. "Did any of you say something?" Now all hell really broke loose, with the civilian council losing their minds because, in their heads, the boy had the gall to treat them like they are lower than him, while a good portion of the rest of the room broke out laughing or giving a slight chuckle, with the exception of Danzo and Hayashi, who even though tend to keep a tough exterior, but were laughing on the inside, while also respecting the boy's courage at facing such worthless opponents. Shibi, since nobody ever seems to know what he and the rest of the Aburame clan are thinking, or if they are capable of expressing emotions, and Fugaku, mainly because he believes himself to be above everybody else and don't like it when anybody has the nerve to say otherwise. Deciding to get down to business, Hiruzen released a strong wave of killer intent as his gavel to tell everybody to settle down and shut up. Seeing that everything is in order. "All right, now that everybody is here, what is the meaning behind calling this meeting?" Hiruzen asked, although he already got a good idea on what it is going to be about. "Lord Hokage, we have warned you about how letting the demon live could prove fatal to us all, so we demand he be removed from the village, either by death or banishment," one civilian yelled out. Hiruzen pinched his nose, already feeling the headache, while the rest of the ninja/former ninjas looked at the other side, finding it amazing how they keep accusing Naruto of things when they don't seem to provide one bit of proof, which in this case, since the third walked in without a mark on his body, then, "What makes you think I have been attacked by Naruto?" Hiruzen asked, "And what proof do you have of Naruto's so-called attack on me?" "Because of the fact that there was a bright yellow chakra that came from your office," another yelled out, "and since some of us seen that demon enter your office, obviously he decided to show his true colors." Next thing anybody knew, said council member lost their job when an ANBU took that person to Ibiki. This was when Danzo stepped in. "And how do you know that young Naruto has actually attacked the Hokage?" he asked, especially since said person walked in without a single sign of being attacked. After getting a good hard look at Hiruzen, they realized that while he doesn't look hurt, he would be more than glad to put the rest of the civilian council into a whole world of hurt for trying to use him as an excuse to take out Naruto. So if the brat didn't attack or Lord Hokage, then how do you explain that? A councilwoman asked, pointing towards Naruto, who didn't look fazed by all of this, especially with all of the finger-pointing that he is going through. Oh that? Well, that is a new bloodline that is just making itself known. Hiruzen answered for Naruto, keeping it in a half-truth. That attack on Naruto's birthday seemed to have damaged the seal to where, if I hadn't to fix the seal to keep the Kyuubi from breaking out, and Naruto from absorbing too fast, and knowing what was about to be said, and no, if I didn't stop it, the fox would be back, one way or the other. While the civilians were white as a ghost at hearing that, everybody else knew that their Hokage wasn't telling them everything. Yet if it involves Naruto, they can understand why, since a good portion of the village is full of self-righteous bastards using other people's death as an excuse to do the inexcusable. They are willing to wait until the civilian council and Fugaku leaves after the meeting is over before asking questions. The ones who have a pretty good idea what is being hidden are Shikaku, Hayashi, Shibi, and Fugaku, along with Danzo, Hamura, and Koharu having a good idea what laws that Hiruzen is trying to keep from getting abused, especially a certain law that was written, but never used because at the time, all clans were just barely getting off the ground themselves. To put it simply, while some villages have practiced it once or twice, although some were more forced, in Konoha, Naruto would be the first, even though his clan had their own home outside the village. Knowing that the gears are turning, and what they are planning, yet like some things, when it comes to politics, it's usually first come, first serve. And since Naruto is the holder of two bloodlines, along with being the true heir and last member of the Uzumaki clan, I hereby place him under the Clan Restoration Act, he said, getting everybody's attention. With a minimum of 3 girls to join his family, which he well allowed to choose by his 16th birthday, and by his 18th, 1 or 2 of them should be carrying a child. Now this got a whole bunch of different reactions from the rooms, with some of the civilians trying to either deny the boy before he makes spawns, some because they don't want Naruto to gain access to the Uzumaki funds that they themselves have been denied to, change the CRA to a ridiculously younger age or number, or even have it where they choose the future wives, mainly their own daughters and rest of the council. Well, some were shocked that Hiruzen would even suggest that, especially to a young child, yet they kept quiet. Although Fugaku was thinking of ways to stop the young demon from becoming stronger than the Uchiha clan. Deciding that he has had enough, silence, Hiruzen yelled out, making the room, getting things back on track. I have looked up the laws, and I also know that since the Uzumaki were, or rather, soon to be are, a ninja clan, then you don't really have too much of a say in the matter. He said with small smiles, and before any of you so much as think of trying to have your daughters and granddaughters on Naruto, just so you can gain access to what's rightfully his. Remember, he is still a child, so if you so much as try to rush things, I will sick the Ice Queens on you. This caused a lot of people to shiver, because there are only 2 things that would the small group to attack. 1 is when any kind of pervert that can't take the hint, 2 if you mess with their little brother. Deciding that he had enough if this farce meeting. Okay, now I call this meeting to an end, and I don't feel like listening to any more backtalk, so leave now, or I won't be the only one throwing you out. Hiruzen said, giving them a look that reminds them that the title god of shinobi isn't just for show. The room was cleared of civilians, with Fugaku not too far behind, some of them giving Naruto a slight glare, which was ignored before they left. When it became just Naruto, and the high-ranking officials that still know the difference between politics and actually doing what they're supposed to do. When the door closed, Hiruzen gave his next order. All A and BU in the room, leave, and be on the lookout for any eavesdroppers, especially if they are council members or Uchiha. A few poofs were heard. Root, you as well? Make sure this conversation stays private. Danzo yelled out, which was followed by another set of poofs. Originally, Roots was meant to be beyond Black Ops, doing things that even A and BU would be restricted to do, especially if it involves doing things without getting fingers pointed at the village, which was heading towards getting disbanded by Hiruzen, because what they do tends to question how far one would go for one's village. After a talk between the 2 friends, it was agreed upon that Root would be a subdivision of A and BU, with Danzo in charge, while still reporting straight to Hiruzen, and a major makeover of the group by making sure that, while still soldiers of Konoha, they still have their humanity through emotions, and there would be no more recruiting of any kids who haven't even started the academy yet, while clan heirs are especially off limits. Like everything else, it was a bumpy start, but Danzo did see better results when his troops are fighting from the heart, and he was able to see things from his friend's point of view on how life should be treated with love, not peace. Now, he was able to enjoy the joys of family with his wife, children, and grandchildren. After everybody grouped up around Naruto, Hamura was the one to speak up. "All right, old friend, what could cause you to place somebody as young as Naruto into a program that is supposed to be given to him when he is at least close to becoming a teenager?" The man asked, since he is like a walking law book, which helps Hiruzen and the elders completely whenever they go over the laws and make sure the civilian council don't try to put in false laws to take power from the shinobi and give it to them. "Yes, Hiruzen," Koharu said, wanting to know what would cause her old friend to make such a move. "Usually, you would usually be the one to prevent such things from happening to Naruto, so why the change of approach?" Hiruzen gave a small sigh, but Shikaku was the one to answer, because if he didn't, then the civilian council would have, and the laws would be on their side because they would have said it would be. He started to explain. For the good of the village. Some finished, when she and the rest figured out that this was more for protecting Naruto in the future, while making sure the boy doesn't have to deal with dirty politics at such a young age. God, I hate that line. "Don't we all?" Danzo said, since he and his comrades heard that line used so many times, by so many sides. It's just so sad on how they are used. There are times when it's used more as a shield to give certain people a reason to do such despicable deeds, that it seems hard to tell if anybody truly knows what it's supposed to mean, including us. "Indeed," Shibi said, deciding to continue business. "Yet right now, I'm curious what things you have been hiding that you didn't want the civilian council, or even Fugako Uchiha from finding out. Would you please explain it to us now?" Hiruzen looked at Naruto, since it was mainly his secret that includes others, to tell, who gave him a nod of approval, since the boy is a good judge of character. So the Sandaime told them the whole truth, from how Naruto got his fox features, and how the fox itself is now getting a new life as a girl named Misaki Aiko. After everything was told, everybody understood right away why he kept that part away from the wrong element. Sum was the first to speak up. "Wow, it's a good thing you decided not to tell them that. Those idiots would go too far on their so-called revenge to destroy both of their lives," she said, everybody else giving the Hokage an understanding nod, while also making sure not to scare Naruto too much on what could happen, especially to Misaki. Turning towards said boy, "Naruto, I would like to meet Misaki and get to know her better." "As would the rest of us," Hayashi said, getting agreement nods from the rest of the group, before turning towards the Hokage. "And when you brought up the CRA, I get the feeling that it would be the other thing that you didn't want anybody else to know, Lord Hokage." Hiruzen gave a small nod. "Yes, long before we received the notice of Naruto's so-called fate, young Naruto was tackled by 5 girls, for mothers, and 2 of my ANBU, hugging his tails. This caused the group to laugh at the first depart. Yet their jaws dropped after hearing that 2 ENBU, people trained to be professional when on duty, would just drop everything just to have a girly moment. And after helping Naruto not to get smothered to death, we put up a privacy seal and told them everything, from his lineage to his bloodlines. And when I brought up the CRA to the mothers, I guess you could say that in the future, Naruto already found his first set of brides." He then turned to the boy, who was blushing a bit, even though he has no idea why. "Naruto, how did you feel about those girls that never left your side the entire time you were telling your story?" Naruto was blushing a bit more. "I'm not sure. It felt good, but I don't know why." He started to explain, the best he can since he is only 4 years old. "It's like every time they smile, I feel happy and want to do all that I can to keep them smiling like that." Everybody smiled at this, because they knew the boy would be going places, and he won't be traveling alone. Chozo walked up to the boy and gently placed his hand on his head, getting his attention. "Relax, Naruto. Sometimes the heart tends to know more than you do," he said, giving him advice that even he could understand. "So Lord Hokage, who are the girls that would help Naruto restore his clan?" Inochi asked. Him and Hayashi felt a cold shiver going down their spines, which usually meant that their wives wanted to have a little talk with them, meaning that they listen and take whatever order they are given. Hiruzen's smile turned into a smirk, one usually reserved for Naruto whenever pranks are involved. Some days, he understands the pleasure Naruto goes through whenever he decides to pull a prank on an unsuspecting target. Right now, he wishes he had a camera, especially considering that the fathers of some of those girls are right in front of him. The names of the girls are Misaki Aiko, of course, Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka, Hinata Hyuga, Hanabi Hyuga, and Dawn Uchiha, he said, causing Inochi and Hayashi's jaws to fall to the floor. And from the looks of things, Ju and Asami already approve, so you know what means. Inochi and Hayashi knew exactly what it means, and both had depressed looks on their faces, with the wavy lines on them. It meant that their wives are already planning a wedding, and they have better not get in their way if they want to live. Inochi was the first to recover. Well, at least we know the boy than the alternative, he said, with a small smile. Hayashi looked up, with a smile of his own. Indeed, compared to some other options that I wouldn't wish on anybody's daughter, he said, considering how far his clan goes to make sure that the Byakugan belongs to only pure-blooded Hyuga, no matter what the cost. After everybody recovered from laughing at the poor men's expense, some spoke up. So that's why you didn't reveal the girls at the meeting, she said. While Inochi's and Hayashi's pups would be safe from the rest of the village due to them being clan princesses. But with Misaki being now an orphan, and Mabuki's pup being civilian, the village would go out of their way to take them out, no matter what the reasons are. Along with keeping Dawn safe from Fugaku and the rest of the clan, Hayashi said, if he knew that his own daughter has fallen in love with the one that could be considered a threat to the clan, then he would try harder to kill Naruto, and do who knows what to his own daughter. This caused the adults to shake their heads in disappointment, with Naruto having a look on his face saying that he isn't sure if he wants to know. Anyway, I believe that we have kept Naruto away from his lady friend long enough, Hiruzen said, knowing that Naruto would want to spend the day helping Misaki getting used to having a flesh and blood body for the first time in her life. So shall we get going, Naruto? He asked, and since it's close to lunchtime, I bet I would love to meet Misaki for the first time. Naruto gave him a big grin, because it also meant that he would be getting ramen for lunch. Yeah, I can't wait to show the village to Misaki now that she can see things with her own eyes. He yelled out excited, before running towards the door. Giving the boy a slight chuckle/giggle, the rest of the group went about their day, thinking about what the future holds.